it's important for me to get most of the water out of here. Oh, I need to check this too. I don't want to run my water over. Woo, close, close. Almost. That was an almost. Yep, that was an almost. I wasn't watching quite carefully enough, and I almost overflowed a barrel. That's a sin. Not supposed to do that. So, anyway, so I'm pouring more water out of the saucer. I'm going to use this to water some of the pots that are not currently on a watering system, which we do have a couple. Okay, now this water has been drained to the point where there's some in the bottom, but it's like a 1/16 of an inch. So it'll make it really obvious pretty quickly whether that's doing okay or not. Now, this pot here, the plants seem to all be doing pretty well. This looks a little shaggy right now, but that's because the time is done blooming, so the flower petals and stuff have gone brown, so it doesn't make it look great. But this little guy down here has suffered some damage a couple of times in the last month because the water just didn't work quite well enough. So I'm getting his dead leaves out of here, and the soil is plenty damp, so that should be fine. This one seems fine. The plants are moderately happy. This is Emerald Crown, and it is still producing, so that'll be okay. I'm going to put this, I have a potato plant that randomly came up in there, and I'm just leaving it. I'm not growing potatoes this year, really, but I figure if it came up and it makes it, and I can make it work and all that kind of happy stuff, good. I'm not going to make a huge effort to salvage it, but on the other hand, I'm not going to kill it on purpose either. Let's see. I want to drain this guy out a bit too. And I know this seems like a lot of work, but there's no, unless I had a siphon, which I don't really have a good siphon that I'd want to use for something like this. It's noisy. I want to get the majority of the water out of these bases so that I can tell if I'm getting more water in there than we need and things like that on a daily basis, rather than, you know, after several days. Because I have a limited amount of time in which to fine-tune this process. Now I have one tomato plant in this one, and it is a Shelby. I think I am going to leave the Shelby there, and I'm going to put a couple of, maybe just one. This is a husk cherry, also called a ground cherry. These all came up as volunteers in here. I didn't actually choose to plant any this year. I transplanted them out of existing pots because I wasn't sure who I knew that might be interested in some, etc., etc. Okay, I've got that in here now. I'm going to put a tiny bit of potting soil on top here. There is supposedly some fertilizer in the potting soil. I never count on it. but it's a good idea to top up your pots anyway. Otherwise you'll find that just from the heat and the bacteria and all the other little microbes in the soil, your potting soil level goes down, and you'll get to be kind of ridiculous in terms of well, that was good. I didn't realize that one of the barrels was open, and all of a sudden I got water pouring down the greenhouse. Okay. Anyway. I was going to put just a little bit of water in here for the dog, because I like to have fresh water in here for him, so he can always get a drink of water when he's thirsty. So anyway, so I'm going to water this good in good, backwards grammar. Anyway, I'm going to give it some water there. So I've adjusted 3 out of the, 5 did I say, that are getting too much water. See, there's one back here that has a bit too much. This one. This is an Amanda orange. Plant is doing great. But I do want to be careful about making it too wet. I am going to take some of the water out of the saucer. And I'll probably change the emitter on this one. I don't mind having a little bit of water in the bottom of the pot. It's not a bad thing to have that reservoir for the afternoon when it gets really hot and the plants will wick up more water. But I don't want the things overflowing, which is what we're getting here. So I'm going to pour this in here, because this actually looks a little drier than I'd be happy with. I'm going to switch up the emitters on 2 of these pots back here, and I'm going to see if I can just get them switched without having to cut anything off. There we go. There's one. This is a Bella Rosa. It's got some nice little nickel-sized flowers on it. This guy's doing okay. He's got a green emitter on him, but he's not overly wet. This guy's got a green emitter over him, and he's overly wet. So I'm going to switch these 2 emitters around to see if that might solve the problem. It's a might. That's what I've got to say. But I'm hoping that that will fix these 2, because this guy I kind of feel like I need to give a little extra water to sometimes. And I know that there's a lot of plants in the pot, and that's probably not helping. I'm also going to trim this guy while I'm at it. I'm going to trim off any things that are a bit on the yellow side. Sometimes you could just peel them off, but be careful that when you peel them, you don't actually like strip down the side of the plant. These are Bella Rosa, which are determinate, which means, technically speaking, I don't need to trim them up at all, but I still do like to make sure that no leaves are actually on the ground. And I suspect that some of this is a little bit of disease or damage from early on when we had some more watering problems. And remember, one of the things that will spread disease really fast is leaf hoppers. Leaf hoppers carry viruses and stuff, and serious pain. So this area here is now taking off all the yellowed stuff on there. This is doing okay. Do I have any kohlrabi that are ready to harvest? I could harvest these 2 actually. There's a nice little kohlrabi. I sometimes let them get bigger than this, but right now I think it's more important to get some of them out of there because they're a little more crowded than I would prefer them to be. And as soon as I take a couple out, all of a sudden their cousins who are in here will have room and they'll be happier. Our favorite little aliens. That'll make a nice little kohlrabi salad. Okay, so they're trimmed. The water has been moved around. Everybody's been drained out except for this guy. Can't really drain out well because he's on the ground, but still have a sense of what's going on there. I had previously come through and see, I have just a couple of, you can't see them from where the camera is located, but I had just a couple of seedlings left in here. I gave all of the tomatoes to a friend and one of the husk cherries. I have taken off a few other crummy looking leaves. I transplanted the dill, here it is. And there's a Mamma Mia Rosa, which is a pepper. That's in here. Now, I was actually letting this dry out a little bit because it had too much water. Let's see if I can clip this so it cannot spring out of the area here. I'm going to show you something I figured out when we were doing hydroponics. Let me check this barrel first. Don't want to have an almost mess here again. If you've ever used the spring clips in a business environment, we use them fairly commonly in a greenhouse environment. Spring clip looks like this, right? It's got two handles. You squish it, this opens. If you squeeze really hard on the sides, like if you flip it this way and squeeze really hard on the sides of this, you can get that out. If you get it out and you put it over your, see, if I was doing this from scratch, what I'm doing is making sure that's not blocked because of dirt. If I was doing it from scratch, I could do it before the emitter was on the end. Since I'm not doing it from scratch, I have to take this apart in order to be able to use it. Now, I'm simply going to argue with this. It'll go back together. And now what I can do is I can clip this onto the side of the container. On the very side. Flip this up and there we go. Now that should not, if we get, what's happening is the pulse of the water when the system started up is actually flipping this up in the air and making it fall out of the pot. Now, fortunately, the pot, this time, it fell into this pot, which is a hostinator, and it's fine. It got more water. It needs a little more anyway, so it's not a big deal. However, in the long run, if I wasn't here to check that, this pot would die, and that's not cool. So, got to fix this problem. You can see there's the dill over, let's see, where's my hand? Over there. Ooh, just this one dill plant. I tried a new variety that I got from Johnny's. I haven't tasted it yet, so I don't know, but it's just an experiment. But everybody else is looking okay. You'll notice that some of these tomatoes are looking a little crowded because they're in with cabbages. But this pot here, which now has a dill and a pepper in it, used to be cabbage. And when we ate the tiara cabbage, we took it out, obviously, and that became useful again for something else. So that's my general theory of interplanting here. I'm going to take a quick peek at the rest of this lineup of stuff and see how we're doing. Even though this plant is a little unhappy right now, it's really hot in here. It's actually got enough moisture in the pot, so I'm not going to worry about it. I have some dead seedlings over here that need to go away. I have just not gotten them out here. And I need to trim this guy back. He's not a happy camper. This is Bella Rosa. I remember Bella Rosa doing this in the field too. And I remember cutting off some of the stuff and it was fine and it did great in the long run, so I don't know. I don't know. I don't pretend to understand sometimes. I do my best. I do my research when I can. And sometimes you never know what went wrong. We've had a lot of water problems this year, so I can't blame the plants too much. Let's see. So each one of these sections will be 12 plants. So let's see. This one is overloaded with water. That one is okay. That one's okay. That one's okay. That one's a little more than I would prefer. That one's okay. That one's okay. So this is doing better than the other side was. So I think I'm going to leave this for now. I've got a couple of other cabbages that are starting to look cabbagey. So this guy will be the next head here. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think, more cabbages. Is this a tiara? Yeah, it's a tiara. And I can't tell who this is. There should be a label in here somewhere. It's underneath somewhere. Anyway, most of the cabbages in here are tiaras, although there are a couple of stone heads. Stone head. It's just a different kind of cabbage. I think so. I'm going to call it quits for now. The dog has melted. The container down here should be almost full. And I don't want to overflow this. Oh, I still have some wiggle room there. I'm going to put this back on here temporarily. This only has this much, and I want to be careful that I don't accidentally overflow it. But that's an improvement again. Got rid of some of the plants that weren't going to do anymore. Oops. Be sure to like, subscribe. Almost said supply. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, because obviously we are going to be doing lots more. I have some seeds I need to replant. I'm going to check a bug on the wall over there to see what it is, because I can't tell from here. I do see that we have some... Hi, are you a wasp? Yes, you are. You have a wasp. Okay, that's just a little yellow jackety sort of thing that's been attracted by the flowers here. That's because that door's open. I don't usually leave that open. But, yeah. And don't forget to brainstorm, because obviously we have so much going on right now. Lots happening. So, bye.